Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the virtual program today, Strategic Planning for Nonprofits with Sarah Hogan. I am Brittany Spillman. I serve as the Cary Center Director of Community and Collegiate Programs. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to thank this year's Community and Collegiate Program sponsors who have pledged support to our efforts in providing meaningful programming for the nonprofit sector. Thank you to Auburn University Outreach, the Community Foundation of East Alabama, the River Region United Way, KPMG, Auburn University Outreach, Office of Public Service, the Drummond Thorne Stooks Fund for Excellence, and a community service grant made possible by State Senator Randy Price and State Representative Joe Lovern. Sarah Hogan earned a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in counseling at her beloved alma mater, the University of Montevallo. During her tenure as a student, she developed a passion for the Montevallo community and is happy to call Montevallo her home. She has had the pleasure of working in the field of higher education, event management, local government, marketing, nonprofit organization, counseling, secondary education, and strategic planning consulting. Sarah currently serves as the Executive Director of IMPACT Montevallo, a federal drug-free community support grant program focused on reducing youth substance abuse. The experience and knowledge that she has achieved through these positions has provided proficiencies in administrative operations, fiscal management, relationship cultivation, volunteer management, public relations, substance use prevention, and strategic organization. Sarah is an enthusiastic, lifelong learner, resiliently committed to excellence, and is devoted to contributing to the achievement of others. Sarah, can you tell us about strategic planning for nonprofits?
Thank you so much, Brittany. I'm excited to be with y'all today. Strategic planning is a huge process, and I hope that you learn something today. I'll go through it as in-depth as I can, but don't be afraid of it because it's very important to the work that you do. So I'll start with, thank you, Brittany, for that introduction. I will just kind of highlight some of the things she mentioned and tell you how I got into strategic planning. So I do have a master's in counseling. I do work with the Montevallo Main Street program. I was its first director and got the program off the ground. So it's very much part of the heart of this community and a passion of mine. I do still work for the city of Montevallo, and I do consulting with Keys to the City Community Coaching. I got started with strategic planning when I was the executive assistant to the president at the University of Montevallo. We had a president there that introduced me to being a part of the process, and we used that to really come up with a comprehensive plan and had collaboration, which I'm going to tell you about a little bit more. Also did strategic planning with McNeese State University, the city of Montevallo, Montevallo Main Street. I've worked with Keller Williams Realty. We've done strategic planning with the David Matthews Center for Civic Life and Main Street, Alabama. So we have, I have some experience in a variety of areas, but as we all know, we're all community focused, no matter what organization you see here, or what organization you may be working with, every nonprofit is going to be community focused. And so that's what we're focused on today. So what influenced the process I'm going to share with you today is some of what I learned in the beginning, which was the Hoshin planning. That was my first experience to strategic planning. If you know anything about it, strategic goals are communicated throughout the organization and then put into action. So think, plan, implement, and review. What I loved about this process is it's not top down. It's very collaborative. It's making sure you include everybody within the organization to come up with the plan for the organization. And then also, I think it's critical to have those review periods. So according to the Hoshin planning process, they really encourage you to have monthly reviews as well as annual reviews. I think that's critical, which we'll talk more about later. And just in case you don't know, all these slides will be shared with you, as well as a guiding worksheet handbook at the end of the presentation. So just so you know, you don't have to hurry and write everything down. The hedgehog concept, which many of you are probably familiar with Jim Collins' Good to Great. So it examines what are you passionate about, what are you good at, and then what drives your economic engine. Even though we may be working with nonprofits, we still are looking for funding all the time to help promote our programming. So whether that's grants, whether that's local donors, we still need to look at those three areas that help us meet the mission of our organization. And then the 7-step strategic planning pyramid is like an outline that we use. We'll be looking at your vision, your mission, your values, your goals, the strategy that you would use, your action plan, and communication. And then, of course, being a counselor, I pull in some of those skills as well and think it's critical to the strategic planning process because it should be a holistic process. We should be involving as many people as possible. So we want to include that active listening. We want to make sure we have participation from all of our stakeholders. We want to make sure that you have someone who can clarify what's being said, do those linkings, someone that's non-biased and that can deal with those difficult conversations. So I take kind of these 4 concepts and blend them together for the process that I'm sharing with you today. So what is strategic planning? It's an opportunity to use dialogue to guide your path forward toward desired outcomes. It should be the foundation for your organization to achieve growth. That's what a strategic plan is. It's an opportunity to work together to come up with a plan to meet the goals that you want to meet for the future. So it should be factual. This part is sometimes hard because we are always promoting our organizations and we want to highlight all the things that are great about what it is we're doing. But sometimes we have to look at the things that aren't working either. So you've got to be able to take a realistic look at what's happening within your organization. You have to listen to the people that are your cheerleaders and the people that are your naysayers. You've got to make sure everyone has a voice so that you get those facts straight. It should be fluid. Again, if you're looking at your strategic plan, this is not a document that we want you to create and put on a shelf and say, okay, I did that. We don't have to do that again for another 3 or 5 years or whatever it is your organization is currently doing. You should be looking at that plan and seeing if what you came up with is actually sending your company, your organization in the right direction. So it's allowed to be changed. Just because you put it together, if you're reviewing it strategically multiple times throughout the year, then you can make those changes. So don't be afraid to change the document. It is something that is supposed to be leading you towards your ultimate goals, and what you're doing is not working. It's okay to change it. And it should be fun. A lot of people are like, strategic planning, oh, I don't want to do that. But actually, if you use the approach to get many people within your organization involved, it will ignite a passion and people will remember why they're so excited to be a part of what you're doing. So it can be a lot of fun, a part of this process. So who needs one? Everybody. I don't know what type of organization each of you are coming a part of today, but all of you could use a strategic plan. It is something that even though we're focused on nonprofits today, every company needs a management strategy that the entire organization can communicate together and knows where you're going. It's a way to motivate everybody within the organization. If everybody knows the path you're headed on, then they have a direction that they can go. They can keep their passion and their motivation moving forward, because if they've had a piece of the pie, they've had an impact, they've had an opportunity to be a part of it, then they're more likely to keep moving forward because they want to get to the same place you want to get to. So why is it different than that comprehensive plan or that other plan you have sitting on the shelf? Well, it should be visionary. Your strategic plan should be an ultimate goal of what you think your best can be for your organization. It should be broad. It should be looking at what are the critical areas and categories of who we want to be as an organization. And it should be your first step before you do any of those plans, because if you do not have a plan of who you want to be and where you want to go, then how can you come up with any other plan before you do this one? So it should be your first step to creating all of these. All right, so let's dive a little bit more into the strategic pyramid. So vision is what you want to be. Your mission should be why you exist. Your values are what you believe in. Your goals are what you want to achieve. Strategy, how will you achieve your goals? Action plan, what needs to be done, and communication is how you move forward together. A lot of pyramids will leave the communication part out. I people around me will tell you communication is one of my favorite words. I don't think there's any point in doing something just to have a check mark and say it's done. So if you're doing something that's meant to be impactful, if you're not telling people about that, or you're not getting everybody within the organization on the same page, it's just a check mark. So you've got communication is the way that you move forward together. So here's a little bit about the process that I'm going to walk you through today. We're going to talk about identifying your key stakeholders, the importance of setting expectations, looking at the assessment piece for your organization, determining your vision, mission, and value statements, setting your goals, objectives, and strategies, and create an action plan, and then identify those best communication strategies. There's a lot of you on here. Zoom is not really easily participatory, like throwing questions out there to you. So if any of you have any questions or comments at any time during the presentation, use the chat box or chime in whenever you would like to. This process in this guiding worksheet packet that you will get, the process is outlined in a one-page flyer that'll be easy for you to share with others. So we'll walk through each of these as we continue the presentation. So your key stakeholders, who should be involved? As many people as possible. That might seem overwhelming to you because a lot of times organizations and companies will just use the top-down approach. But again, if you want a strategic plan that everyone's going to buy into and your organization as a whole is going to take the time to really dig in and find out what it is you can actually be best at and how you can move forward together, it's going to take as many people as possible and finding out the perspective as many people as possible. You need to prioritize your diversity. One thing I love about Montevallo is we really value our youth. We want to make sure our youth are involved in as many opportunities as possible. So you need to look at who benefits from the organization that you're a part of. Are you looking at not only your clients, your potential clients, who you're serving, who are your donors, your volunteers, your employees, every stakeholder that you can think of that would have an interest in what it is you're doing should be given an opportunity to have a voice during your process. And we'll talk a little bit about what that can look like when we get to assessment. So you need to set expectations for your participants. When people feel valued and included, the outcome is far greater. It's always easier to have a facilitator. You can take this information that I give you today and you can create a strategic plan within your organization on your own. What helps to have a facilitator is the facilitator is the non-biased one that can come in and see the different people who may not be talking are giving you those nonverbal cues, making sure everyone in the room is participating, making sure that when someone says something, was it clear what it is they were trying to express? Because there can be a lot of fear when you're trying to get people to open up and give their actual opinions about what's happening within the organization. If it's employees in there with a boss, they're going to be scared to say what's really on their mind. So having a facilitator help facilitate some of those conversations can be very helpful. Some of the expectations I use to set up when I start this process is being present. Put your phone on silent, put it in your office. I need you to be present for the time that we're working together. I need you to be active. I'm going to ask each one of you to participate. If you're not participating, I might call you out directly because your voice is important. So if you're not comfortable speaking out loud, I'm going to ask you to write something on a paper. I'm not going to let anyone sit back and feel like that their opinion doesn't matter, because it does. You need to be open-minded. There's going to be a lot of different ideas being thrown out and thoughts being thrown out. So everyone needs to be open-minded and respectful. Being brave. Again, there's a lot of fear when it comes to this process that other people aren't going to agree with you or they're going to think your idea is crazy. You need to be brave and be able to throw these ideas out there, and you need to be engaged. So no matter if the situation becomes challenging or how exciting it may be, try to stay in the moment at all times to be engaged in the process. All of that is easier when you have a facilitator, but like I said, you can come up with your own expectations for this process, and you can do everything we're going to talk about today yourself. But just remember that people need to know what the expectations are before you start the process. That way they feel valued, they feel included, they feel more comfortable knowing what's coming next. Participants will feel invested and valued if they're given an opportunity to assist in setting the agenda and desired outcomes. So when someone is a part of making a plan, they will give more towards the organization if they feel like they are valued versus just saying, thanks for coming today. But if you're really giving them an opportunity to have a voice, for them to participate in activities, they're gonna feel very valued and part of moving you forward. So working with the city and all the organizations I've worked with, a former city clerk of mine called people the cave people. Cave people are citizens against virtually everything. And you know that you have them in your organization. There are some people that just cannot wait to point out what's not working. They don't come with possible solutions. They just want to tell you what isn't happening. Well, it was great for me to see in the leadership that was done. Anytime they had people coming that were constantly complaining, they would try to find an opportunity to put them in a place of service. And you may say, why would I want that person serving when they're always so negative? Because once you give them an opportunity to be a part of, and they feel like their voice is heard and they feel like they can do something, their attitude changes around. So we want those people, even though they may be difficult to begin at the beginning, they usually turn into some of your strongest volunteers once they feel valued and a part of the process. So assessment. I start with individual assessment because each one of us has our own bias, our own thoughts about our own participation within an organization. I'm involved in a lot of different organizations, and our time is precious. So you have to ask yourself, why am I involved in each one that I'm doing? What's the impact I want to have? So in your packet, you're going to have an individual assessment of about 20 questions that you can share with the individual members within your organization and complete yourself. Because you see this little cartoon, it says bad dog. Well, what does bad dog really mean? If you don't dive in and really try to figure out what someone is contributing, what they think the challenges are, an individual has to be able to reflect on themselves as part of the organization before they can look at it as the organization as a whole. So some of the questions, I'll just give you some example, is what do you feel you contribute the most to your organization? Have you been an active participant in your organization's initiatives and events? We can say a lot of people, if they answer truthfully, they might always have an opinion, but they're not actively involved. And they need to kind of realize that themselves. They need to be doing some individual reflection, or they may not be able to answer that question honestly if you just do it in a group. But if they're doing it individually in a group and on their own through an assessment, they can have that time to reflect and pick up on where they might need some extra help. Also, is there anything about your organization that is so fundamental that it should be protected against change? That the answer to that question may be different from a multitude of people within your organization, but we need to be able to know that when we start working through the strategic planning process. And again, if you give people time to reflect and answer these questions before you bring them in to a group, those conversations are going to be more easily had. You're going to be able to find those common themes. You're going to be able to look at those outliers. You're going to have conversations of, well, how did you come up with that? What inspired that? And it's going to have some meaningful conversations if you give people an opportunity to do the individual assessment first. And then if your organization could engage in just one activity that would excite you into wanting to contribute more of your time and or resources, what would that be? Because we all know that if we can find that one niche for each individual person, and we can connect them to that right seat on the bus, as Jim Collins would say in Good to Great, we can make sure that they're feeling valued, and that the organization is benefiting from having someone who's passionate about what it is they're bringing to the organization. So again, these individual assessment questions, I think, is a good way to send out before you start the process. Anyone that you've identified as a key stakeholder that you want to bring into a group setting, give them time to reflect individually before you start the process. And then anytime you have a meeting, if you have a monthly meeting of your membership, of your clients, your employees, whatever it may be, use that meeting time to get some informal assessments. Use meeting introductions or icebreakers. Just say, what brought you here today? Introduce yourself and tell me what brought you here today. Introduce yourself and tell me what is it that you love about this organization? You can come up with so many little questions that aren't going to be hard for people to answer and put on the spot. Some people really hate icebreakers. Tell me your talent, and some of us don't have any. Find simple questions that you can get and use those informal assessments to kind of get what it is people are thinking about your organization and how you can build upon that. One that I really like to use is, what is the first word that comes to mind when you think of your organization? So what's the first word that comes to your mind when you think of the Carey Center? You would ask that to a large group and you would take down all of the words. And then with the organizations that I've worked with over a multitude of times, we go back. I have one that I've worked with for a couple of years now. So we just did this again. They've had some new people join in. So we did this. We did a planning retreat one day. And so I just asked the same question again. And then we went back and compared. What did it look like 2 years ago? What stayed the same? What has changed? How do you drill down to what actually is your organization all about? What comes to mind? And is that something you want it to be, or what can you do to change that? So you need to examine the culture. When I talk about culture, I'm talking about when people internally and externally within your organization, what activities and events are you holding? What do people think about those activities and events? Are they community centered? Are they done just to say a check mark that it's done and it's through and we did it? So what kind of impact does it have? Who are you collaborating with? Are the people within your organization collaborating together? Are they looking at outside entities? Are they networking? Are they building strong partnerships with other like-minded organizations? Are they collaborating with state and federal government? How much collaboration is occurring within your organization? And opportunities. What opportunities exist for your employees, for your volunteers, for the community that you're serving? Are you providing enough of those opportunities? What type of opportunities are you providing them? You've got to really dig deep down and kind of look at what is the culture around that. Are you a culture? Do you have a culture that ignites opportunities? Or are you a culture that is status quo, happy with the way things are and moving forward? Looking at your inclusivity and your diversity. Who are you including? Do you seem to go back to the same people all the time? We know as a small town, we struggle. We're going to have the same people who step up to serve in all the areas all the time. So we're constantly asking ourselves, how can we pull in more people? How can we pull in younger people, new families that are moving in? How can we're a college town. How can we get some of our college students involved? So always looking at your culture. Is it a culture who's always asking how to get it in, or something that's on the back burner that you kind of think about when someone asks the question? Services and resources. And again, that word I love, communication. What is the communication culture? Would people say that they know what's going on internally with the people who are supporting your organization, the community that your organization is in? What would they say about your communication strategies? So looking at your culture. And that leads into looking at your reputation. So looking at your local, regional, and state leaders and partners, a lot of us with nonprofit, we're always looking at grant opportunities. So do your partners know your name? Do they know what it is you do? Do they have a passion for what it is you do? What about your volunteers, employees, and donors? Not looking at just current, but past. If you've lost some volunteers or when your employees leave, why is that? Donors who have maybe donated one time but aren't donating again. Do they have any comments or reasons why that has fallen off? And then potential volunteers, employees, and donors. Asking people why they haven't, what hinders them from being an active member of the organization. They may enjoy your mission, look, they may enjoy what it is you're doing for the community, but they haven't gotten actively involved, and finding ways to ask them that question and giving them the opportunity to answer that question will lead to some valuable information as you're doing your strategic planning. And then, of course, the people that you serve and your media networks, that goes back to your communication. Are you telling your story? And how wide are you telling your story? Some communities and organizations have better networks with media outlets. Today, we live in a very digital world. Social media, Montevallo, we have no news station, we have no newspaper. We do get coverage from the Shelby County Reporter, and we do get to go and talk of Alabama sometimes, but it's far and few in between. So a lot of our communication in the community is still done very old school. It's still done with posters in windows, posters at the grocery store, advertisements in our chamber chatter, along with social media. So looking at what is your reputation with the media networks? Are they reaching out to know what it is you're doing so they can promote opportunities? Do you have those connections there? What hinders those connections? So again, just looking at what do people know you? Do they know your name? And do they actually know what it is you do? So then you get to the part where you want to bring people together and continue this assessment. This is that factual part. This is one of the biggest pieces of the pie when you start your strategic planning process. You've got them thinking, you've already done their individual assessment, then you're bringing them in, and you as a whole want to describe what is success. So you all want to be successful. You want to come up with these goals to be successful. What does that actually mean? What does that look like? What does success mean for your organization? How are you distinctive from any other organizations that's doing the same work that you're doing? And then what resources do you need to accomplish that work? A lot of times we do things very thin, working on a low budget, working with low staff. We get burnt out sometimes. Well, what is it that we really need to help us do our job better? What is it that we need to help us be the best organization that we need? So just again, asking these hard questions as a group, and part of that can be done using the SWOT analysis. Breaking into small groups, I highly recommend it for all of this assessment area. When we worked with the David Matthews Center, that's what we did. We broke them into small groups, 4 or 5 people at the most. We let each group work on answering the assessment questions, and then we came back together as a whole and had each group present and looked for those linkages and those themes, and it spurred conversation and more ideas and bouncing off each other. But you get more involvement from people, and they feel more involved when they're actually in a small enough group to be able to give opinions and to give ideas and to be an active participant. So I highly suggest small group work. But I'm sure all of you are familiar with the SWOT analysis. Your strengths, what you do well, your weaknesses, or where do you need to improve, your opportunities, or what are your goals, your threats, or your obstacles that you may face. And when you can look at all of these, give them some big paper to hang on the wall, fill it out, bring it back together and do it as a whole group, you can see what's the common themes, what are things that really stood out, What are the unique things? Do people really respond to those things that were outside the box? Again, it just gives you a new perspective and new way to think about things. And again, including everyone, making sure everyone has a piece of the process. And then we get to the pyramid. So this is the top of the strategic planning pyramid with your vision statement, and your vision statement is what you want to be. So what do you want to achieve in the future? What kind of organization do you envision? What are the individual and collective talents, resources, and networks that you can offer? So in your packet, there's an opportunity again to go back to that individual vision statement. Because if the members of your organization, no matter what role they play within your organization, don't know the vision for themselves within the organization, it's going to be hard for you to achieve a holistic vision statement for the organization. So in your packet, there's a worksheet to help individuals come up with what their individual vision statement should be for your organization. And it helps them form a sentence at the end that says, I want to contribute, I want to blank, whatever it is they want to contribute to your organization, to have what kind of impact? What are they trying to achieve of being a member of your organization? And what can they do as an individual to help achieve that impact? So again, it kind of helps them put in perspective what their role can be to be an active participant. And then you can come back together as an organization as a whole and come up with where the organization as a whole, what do you want to achieve? Who do you want to be known at? How can you become something more than you already are? So I'll put together some examples here. Your vision statement should be short, simple, and very specific. You want to have a human connection. It should be long-term, and it should be about your collective talents as an organization. So these examples are producing and selling locally sourced cakes and pies that are so delicious and satisfying that every customer who leaves our store does so with a smile. So when you see that vision statement, you know exactly what they do. They produce and sell cakes. Who do they want to be? They want to be one who is making delicious and satisfying every customer. So they're customer oriented. And how do they do that? They have that human connection that they want everyone to leave with a smile. Team Lehman's is Team Lehman guides our family of clients through the buying and selling experience by utilizing our expertise, creativity, and diverse talents to ensure they leave the closing table satisfied, having earned their business for life. So they, again, it's their vision of they want to use all these, they're a team in real estate, so they want to use each individual member's strength, that collective resources that they have in the real estate. And they not only want to have the closing, which is how they determine success, they want to make sure that whatever client they have at the table comes back for additional services from them. So having earned their business for life. So those are just some examples of some vision statements. Then we move into the second line, which is your mission statement. This is who do you serve? What is your purpose? What impact do you want to achieve? Remember, your mission statement is why you exist. What is it that what is your organization trying to accomplish? Why do you exist? For me, for Impact, we exist to help youth reduce youth substance use. That's why we exist. We're focused on Montevallo and we want to reduce youth substance use. If you can easily, probably if we were in a room together, I'd ask how many of you have a mission statement, how many of you are satisfied with that mission statement, how often have you reviewed that mission statement, or is it something you came up with years ago and we have this and we put it on some publications every now and again. Your mission statement should be used in all those areas, but it should be known by all members of your organization. If they don't know why you exist, then they can't be a part of it. You can't recruit new members if you yourself can't easily say why it is you exist. So here are some examples of mission statements. And mission statements can be longer than your vision statement, but for IMPACT Montevallo is a collaborative partnership of concerned citizens in the city of Montevallo to raise awareness of the youth substance issues in our city and to educate youth and adults to take action to prevent youth substance use. That's why we exist. The mission of the city of Montevallo is to enhance, enrich, and empower the lives of everyone who resides, studies, visits, works, or plays in our city. So those are just some examples. And if we were together, I'd ask some of you to share. So feel free if you want to chat box. Your value statements are what you believe in. What do you stand for? What behaviors or characteristics do you value? How do you treat members of the community you serve? Usually you will not just have one value statement. A lot of people will have 3 or 4 that really define who you are in the organization. Sorry, I have one of those automatic lights and it keeps going out. Is it inclusivity and diversity? Is it community involvement? Is it being client centric? Is it professional growth for your members of your organization? Trying to understand what it is you want to be known for. And when people look at your organization, what is it that you stand for? This goes back to that culture we talked about and why you're examining your culture. When people think of your organization, how do they think of you as a culture? So here's one that I thought fit good as an example. It's a Main Street community, and their 4 values are collaborative, inclusive, imaginative, and impactful. And then they have a statement under each one. So imaginative, we value solutions that are outside the box and seek to showcase our quarter's uniqueness by promoting arts, music, and culture. Again, these value statements can be used to tie into your goals and looking at those strategic categories that we're going to be talking about next. But you've got to understand who you are, why you exist, and where you want to be. If you don't have your vision, mission, and value statements in place as an organization, how do you set goals for where you want to go? Because the first 3 things tell you where you want to go. And if you do it collaboratively with as many stakeholders as possible, you have a lot of people who are on your side helping you be successful. So now we get to the goals part. So one of my favorite quotes, and it's on your worksheet and your guidebook, that says, a goal should scare you a little bit and excite you a lot. So your goals aren't something that should be easily obtainable. It should be something that you're excited that if you were to accomplish this as an organization, you would be so proud. You would be wanting to tell your story. You would want people to know what it is you were able to accomplish for your community. So remember that. It shouldn't be so scary that you don't think you're going to accomplish it, but it should be something that's a little bit of a challenge to you. It should be something that you're not doing right now. You want to be able to get there. A goal is not being able to say, oh, I can check this off because we did it right now. It shouldn't be that easy. It should be, oh, we've challenged ourselves and we've grown. We have this of who we want to be, and we've reached that. So we're expanding our foundation of who it is we are. And sustainability, you're setting yourself up to be a viable organization that will be here for many years to come. So your goals are, what do you want? What do you want to happen for your organization? What do you want to achieve? How will you achieve it? And what steps will it take to get there? So you will be looking at the themes. A lot of times where it says priority topics or projects, a lot of organizations will have themes. So that goes back to that culture too. So what are the main themes that are the culture of your organization? What is it you want to accomplish and what falls under that? That goes back to looking at your value statements as well. If you're going to be inclusive, well, what are the goals that align with the overall branching topic of inclusivity? How are you doing that? Here in Montevallo, we have a growing Hispanic population. So we're always looking at how can we engage our Hispanic population more. It's not just translating all of our materials into Spanish, which we try to do, but how can we engage that community to be more actively involved? So we've started going to parent meetings at the high school through the foreign language teacher. We've reached out to the churches who are doing our Catholic Church, who has a huge Hispanic population that we're doing events with. Look, if that's our priority, then we can't just say, oh, we translated our materials and we met it. You want to keep going. You want to become something better. You want to become something more. So that's what we're looking at through your strategic plan, and why it can change, because you can, as you meet goals, you can add more. If something's not working, you can change it. But that's why you're always evaluating your strategic plan, and shouldn't be something that's collecting dust on your shelf. And again, putting it all into action. And I keep harping on making sure you're involving as many people as possible, and going back to those cave people, and couldn't believe it myself when we took one of the people that was really upset, and we ended up getting them involved. They're one of our best volunteers we've had, and have been actively involved in a positive way for many years now. So not only let people think that you are interested in hearing them, you're interested in them actually being actively a part of the organization. So plugging them into a role that they can do, whether that's volunteering to distribute, whether they have graphic design skills and can help you with any of your marketing materials, whether they can just go out in the community and share what's going on via liaison, whether it's with your religious community, your schools, your churches. You have all these people at your fingertips that are a part of your organization in a different way. And if you can find out how to plug them into the right area that they're already comfortable in and that they have a passion in, they will help your organization succeed even more. So don't just listen and be an active member by making sure people's voices are heard. Actually give them a job to do, and they will be encouraged to help your organization move forward. So your communication strategies. So you need to ask yourself, what are the best forms of communication to utilize for your specific organization? It's going to be different for each one of us. What are the barriers to your communication? I talked a little bit about that with Montevallo and our issues with not having big media outlets. How you gauge successful communication. Communication is about moving people forward. So if you're not communicating in a way that the people know what it is you're trying to say, then you're not moving forward. If you're just putting it out there to say, hey, well, we posted it, we don't know why nobody knew about it. Well, that didn't work. So we need to reevaluate that and change our strategies. What are the barriers? Are we posting to the wrong thing? Are we not having enough of our membership share what it is we're trying to communicate? And also remember that communication is different than information. Information is posting something, giving it out to somebody. That's information. I'm giving you information right now. But hopefully I'm communicating in a way where what I'm saying is actually getting through to you. Information is kind of like one of those check marks. I put it out there, you got it or you didn't. If I'm communicating it well enough, then you're actually understanding and you're hearing it, and it's getting through to you what it is I'm trying to say. That's the goal of us being able to communicate what it is our organizations do and what we're striving to do to make an impact in our communities. Which leads me to the next piece that I like to talk to organizations about, which is your elevator pitch or your elevator speech. This is descriptive of what it should be. If you don't have one, I highly suggest you get one, because if you can get every member in your organization to be able to have a short sentence that's easy to remember, it gives them an opening to have a conversation whenever and wherever they are. A lot of times, people say, well, what do you do? Or I don't know about that organization. If they can have one short sentence that says something that catches the attention of people. So you want it to be descriptive, you want it to be relatable, you wanted it to be short, you want it to be connective, cohesive, and meaningful. But what you really want is easy enough for anybody to remember, that's part of your organization, and you want to spark conversation. You want somebody to not know what all you do within this sentence. You want somebody to be able to ask questions afterwards, because if you just spit it out and then they move on, but you want to spark their interest so that the conversation continues and they want to know more about your organization. So a lot of times when people ask me about impact, I'll say we're an organization that works to help youth make positive choices. And then they'll say, well, how do you do that? What is it that you do? And so the conversation continues. That's what you want with your elevator pitch. The real estate team that I work with, they say a team that makes real estate easy and fun. All of them can remember that. We're part of a team that makes real estate easy and fun. And then somebody says, well, how do you do that? Or what do you mean by that? And the conversation continues. So this is a way to really get your volunteers and your members to feel like they actually know what it is you're doing. If you can come up with just a short sentence so that when somebody asks them something about the organization, there's no hesitation, they spit it out, and then it's easy for them to get comfortable in the conversation and continue the conversation going. So I highly suggest, if you don't have a little elevator speech that you have given to your members, or that your clients or whoever it is you may be working with, that you do this. And if everybody's speaking the same language, then your mission, your vision will be more accepted within the community. More people will know about you because everyone's singing the same tune, and it shows a passion for what it is you're doing. So again, engaging those that you serve. You find opportunities to let them know that you're still listening and that you're working towards the solutions together. So you want to make sure during the process you've asked them to be an active participant. You want to give them a role to play when you're coming up with your action plan. How can they be a part of it? You're going to communicate with them so they know where you're headed, what you're doing, how you're coming along on your goals. And you want to continue to engage them, whether I said like those easy informal assessments through introductions at meetings, icebreakers, doing surveys, finding ways to do recognitions, whether that's volunteer recognitions monthly, whether that's whatever population you're working with, finding a way to recognize the contributions that people are making or the progress that people are making. Find opportunities to let people know you're paying attention. So how do you initiate the strategic planning process? You can take all this material that I've kind of thrown at you today in a fast way and talk about the importance of having a strategic plan. Again, these realistic assessments, the cohesive language, all of that will help you with opportunities for growth and excellence. If you're interested in researching and finding a facilitator, there's a lot of people out there. Again, I think that helps with making sure that everyone within your organization has a voice, and that the common themes and links and the clarification are actually been able to be made for the organization, because there can be some difficult conversations at times with the different personalities and different perspectives that come out. But during the strategic planning process, it's very important to have those, because at the end of the day, no matter what differences you have, if you can come together and move forward in one unified way that says this is the path that this organization is taking, you're going to be way more successful. So questions? Again, I know that was a lot of information at once, and I'll remind you that you're going to get the slides and the guiding worksheets to help you. I hope that you walk away here thinking about why it is you're involved in your organization and the love you have for your organization and how you would like to see your organization thrive and move forward. So Brittany will be sending you the slides and the packet after the meeting, but I would love to hear any questions, comments that you have in the few minutes we have left.
Hey, this is Lynn. I have a quick question. Do you have I know it depends maybe on how many people are in the meeting, but do you have a time that you recommend that is, do you prefer one day over 2 days? Do you break it up? What do you suggest?
Every organization has been a little different in how they want to approach it. If you do depends on the number of key stakeholders that you identify with your group. You can do a lot of that information digitally. So you can gather surveys, send out the assessments, have those brought in, have somebody kind of put them all together, put them in an Excel spreadsheet, find the common words, and then bring your main people together for a one day. It's a lot to do in a one day. It can be done. But if you, like when at the university, what we like to do is hold several meetings to have less people in a room, because we know people will talk more and be more actively involved when it's not such a huge crowd. And I would just do those for like an hour and run through your assessment questions, break them up into small groups, bring them back. You don't want to exhaust people, but you do want them to be part of the process. So you can reach out to me and we can learn more about the specifics of your organization. So it kind of just depends on how many people you're going to engage. Small groups are the best, using digital assessment tools. If you're going to have like your board of directors or your along with your key volunteers or members for a one day thing, then you'd want to do a lot of your background assessments with your whole cohort digitally. Hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions?
All right, Sarah, thank you so much for a wonderful program. Everyone, you will be getting an email from me with a link to today's presentation, Sarah's slides, and the worksheets that she discussed, a short survey, and an opportunity to sign up to be a Carey Center nonprofit affiliate. The Carey Center nonprofit affiliate program currently serves over 245 nonprofits in Alabama and beyond, and offers educational programming, professional development, and networking opportunities to nonprofit professionals. The Carey Center nonprofit affiliates are the first to learn about upcoming program, and membership is free. Thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you at one of our other virtual programs this summer or in person in the fall. Have a great day.
Thank you.